Doesn't matter, dude. The devs have found a way to save you from killer apocalypse. Okay. More centralized gen kick right here. Your MMR, it should not, random guy. If they do the system right, it definitely should not. Because it's individualized. That's why they can't do that. Very good. It's individualized, that's the right thing to do, but one of the costs of doing individualized MMR is you can't have it tick down. Okay, that gen's completely regressed. Wonderful. They did not come back in this direction. But a lot of people aren't really seeing the genius of the 2-2 MMR yet. The 2-2 MMR adds consistency. Adds a bit more consistency to the matchmaking. Okay? Not a lot of consistency, but more. The reason that's important is that it's going to add enough consistency to it to get some more data on high level. Okay? Now again, we don't need data on high level. Yeah, it's a huge buff for solo survivor. That's exactly what it is. What it's allowing the devs to do is skip killer apocalypse. Okay? Because it adds enough consistency to the high level where they can get good data, hopefully, this is the idea, that they get good data without destroying the experience of killer. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to save killer by not destroying the experience of killer, because you can run gimmick builds and still win, okay? Because they're allowing you to exist. The idea is that you can still run your gimmick builds and win about 40% of the time. About 60% of the time your gimmick builds can still win. That's what the idea is. That's what they're going for. They're letting you exist while also still getting a bigger priority on those good matches. So those games you're losing, if they're good and they're doing this right, they are looking at those matches where you're losing significantly more than your gimmick builds when you're winning. That... Dummy. Hey, dummy. Hey, dummy. You went the wrong way. Let me stalk you. Aw, man. That's what their plan is. Well, I mean, that's only in some of your matches. They have said that the consistency of this other system is better. Okay? Which, I mean, to be fair, it still is. I still got a match as Trickster where... I still got a few matches as Trickster where there weren't 2 potatoes in the game. It's just probably around 65% of the time you're going to be getting 2 potatoes in your game every single time. Maybe the other bit of, maybe like an extra 15% on top of that is going to be, 1 potato in your game. Okay? And then the other 15% will be the 4-man Swift. And so if 15% of your matches on an individual basis for killer are 4-man Swift and impossible to win, okay? That's just you. So if you play 100 games in one day, or in Otz's, let's do Otz's case. In Otz's case, Otz does 50 games in one day. 50 times 0.15 is 7.5. So Otz is going to get an average of 7 to 8 unwinnable games in one day. Okay, if the devs' plan works, okay, I'm not saying the plan's gonna work. It's probably gonna fucking fail. Okay, let's not kid each other. The devs are gonna fucking do it wrong. But this is the actual plan. The actual plan itself is actually very solid. It's you'll only be losing around 7 or 8 games a day. If you play 20 games a day, you might lose 2 or 3. That's the, and then, but of course, there's some games where you might get 10 Swifts in a day, and then other games you might get 0. So it's like, the idea is just, they're trying to add enough consistency to the system where it can actually provide enough data to where the devs at their Q&As can go, okay, well, this perk definitely still needs nerfed because at the top percent, Dead Hard is overperforming and used in 90% of the matches. Then they can say that, and then nerf Dead Hard. And then, my friends, let's not forget that we have an accurate MMR system all ready to go. Did anybody not forget that? 2 tests ago, they had an MMR system that was balls to the wall that puts you against 4-man Swift almost every single time, or that caliber of teams. So, let's not forget that. So, what I mean is, after we fix the game, okay, and Killer is actually viable, then what you do is turn the other MMR system back on. When 4-man Swift is actually balanced, then you turn the other MMR system back on to help the low ranks out. It should all be done in steps. Like, why did they test 2 MMR systems? That's what I want to know. Why did they bother testing another one when the first one worked? Because they knew they couldn't have Killer Apocalypse happen. They got those stats back from that second test, and they knew that this wasn't feasible. They knew that it wasn't going to happen. They couldn't let Killer Apocalypse happen from a business standpoint. They knew that was never good. They were never going to allow that to happen. And we should have all known better. TBH. We should have all known that they were never going to let Killer go in and lose. They were never going to let Otz go in and lose every single game he plays that day. Because what does that do to the perception of the game from a general population? What does that do to the game? It's perception. It kills it. So, they're doing this. Okay, and then hopefully, once they actually balance the fucking game, then we can flick that other one back on. The better one. The more accurate one. If I'm the devs, that's what I'm doing. And let's not forget something else, bruh. You might see Nurse and Spirit get nerfed. And I'll tell you why. Okay? If I'm the devs right now, and my #1 priority is warming people up to this MMR system, okay? The first thing that I do at this point is actually not nerf the maps, it's nerf Nurse and Spirit. Okay? And I'll tell you why. Because won't that calm a lot of the survivors down a little bit? Oh, we're going to use skill-based matchmaking to get better stats, and then they nerf the 2 characters in the game that are fucking busted? How does, especially Spirit, with all the nerf, like what does that do to the perception of MMR if they use it to get Spirit out of the game? Okay? And then they take Spirit out first, even though I don't think they should do that. That's not the way I would go about it. But if you're trying to get MMR over with the general population, and then the first thing you do with it is rip Spirit out, I think that would do a lot for the perception of MMR among survivors. Myself. I don't know, what do you guys think? Am I spitballing? Am I in the right direction here? I take Spirit out first. Another reason I do that is it would absolutely kill the quote-unquote comp scene if you take all their viable characters away in like one little spiff. If my Legion buff, she would go down right here. Oh, okay. What do you guys think, though, about that? Am I in the ballpark? But I'm starting to think that in order to get MMR over with survivors, we should do that. The calm before the storm, if you will. Stretch res? No, okay. Okay, cool. We got a pallet and we don't have to take a 6-second cooldown. Exhausted because of Blood Echo. Is Legion a B tier killer? No. Legion is awful. But yeah, I'm really starting to think that nerfing Nurse and Spirit should be the first change. Let the survivors think they're winning before you start taking all their shit away.